Yeah, I was ready to go in July, but my coach catched COVID, and we had to drive all the way from South Dakota to back to Vegas, quarantine, and then I tested, then I tested negative. So I just got back to training a few days later. Didn't take any break. The original fight was going to be at 55, but the Ben Lugo, my opponent, wanted to do it at 45. So, I had the time to cut the weight. So I just got right back on my diet, right back to training. Did a lot of outdoor training, did a lot of mountain training. Um, Especially after being quarantined, I wanted to see some nature. So it was good to drive to Mount Charleston here in Vegas, see some trees, see some green, get some altitude in my lungs. And that's it.
Awesome. So just talk to us a little bit about the LFA for any listeners who might not be as familiar with that fight promotion.
Yeah, LFA is a great fighting promotion. It has all the best talent outside the UFC in the US, especially in the West Coast. It's the biggest feeder to the UFC. So most of the people who win a belt in LFA go on to fight in the UFC and be successful. A lot of the fighters nowadays that are known, like Sean O'Malley and all kinds of other fighters, all went through LFA. So I really think it's a great promotion. The competition level is really high. What I'm really trying to do is, fight at a high level, get ready to compete at the highest level, and that's in LFA.
So what's it like being in the same training camp, not only for such a long time, but also training for the same person for that whole time?
My training camp started June last year because I want to fight and I was ready to go again as soon as possible. I had some fights fall through, but I'm always in the gym. I'm always in the gym 2-3 times a day, usually 3 times a day. Twice is like a light day for me. So I was training for this fight for over a year. One more month, it doesn't really make a big difference. I was ready and I stayed ready.
Great. And how did you get in connection with your gym, Syndicate MMA, and when did you make the full move to Nevada?
So almost 7 years ago, I came to Vegas for the first time. I met my striking coach, G. McGiff. I got really super lucky to meet him, and we really clicked. We started working on my striking. I came from a karate background, but I couldn't really punch well or do a lot of things that are needed for MMA. And he brought me to Syndicate. He told me, you need grappling, you need training partners, you need fence work. And he brought me to Syndicate, and same thing, I fell in love with the place, and I've been here ever since. At first, I was always flying in and out of Vegas because of my visa. So that's what I did for 4 years. I would go to Israel for 6 months, work, save money, come to the US for 3 months, try and get a fight. A lot of times I couldn't, but after 2 years and a half of doing that, I got my first amateur fight. And then 3 years ago, I turned pro, got an athlete visa, and moved here.
So you're in Nevada, and it's called the fight capital of the world to some people. So I'm sure there's a lot of different MMA gyms around there, quality MMA gyms. What made you choose Syndicate over any of the other ones?
You're right, there are great gyms here in Vegas. First of all, it was Vegas for me because, like you said, it is the fight capital of the world. When I was doing karate, I wanted to be the best. So I flew and trained in Japan and got my black belt there. And same thing for me, the moment I decided I want to do this MMA thing, I just left everything and flew to Vegas. For me, I haven't tried a lot of other gyms. I've seen some, I've visited some. I have friends who train at other gyms, so I went and watched them train. But for me, the biggest thing was I wasn't trying to find the gym with the most champions and the most big name fighters, it's not me. I need like, I know I need somebody that's hands-on on me, and that's what I felt I was getting at Syndicate. Um, at the time when I joined, most of the team were amateurs, and they were all doing really well as amateurs, all winning fights after fights, getting titles. And at that time, that's what I wanted to do. That's what I wanted to be. I wanted to be a good amateur and then turn into a good pro and keep going from there. So really, I found this team that I knew I could grow with. And like I said, we just clicked. I felt right at home. And for me, it's not about the big names, oh, I'm going to go somewhere and they're going to turn me into something. No, everything is in you. Um, you ever seen Kung Fu Panda?
Yeah.
So the secret ingredient is nothing. It's within you, right?
Mm-hmm.
You think you're going to go to some gyms and they're going to turn you into Yoel Romero? No, everything's within you. Of course, you need great coaching, but sometimes I feel like fighters think about that thing too much. Like, oh, they lose, gotta switch camps. Now you won like 15 fights with your camp, just one loss, and you switch camps like it's socks. You can switch camps, it's fine, but don't forget that you're the one, who wins the fight and you're the one who loses the fight.
So talk to us a little bit about your progression that you've made as a fighter throughout the last couple of years, compared to the beginning of your career in early 2018, your professional career, to now.
What was the beginning? Sorry.
Talk to us about the progression that you've made as a fighter from the beginning of your career in 2018 to now.
Yeah, I made, I think, a huge improvement. From turning pro to where I am right now. I wish I could have gotten more fights. 3 years, I would have liked to have had 12 to 15 fights, but especially that I wasn't hurt or anything. But it is what it is. I train my ass off. I try and improve every day I come to the gym. I'm trying to not just come in and do my own thing. I'm trying to learn. I'm trying to absorb. I'm trying to do the move of the day that we just learned. Even in my last fight, a lot of the foot trips, takedowns, a lot of it is stuff I learned recently, but I'm trying to implement it. And I think if you show up every day and not only show up, but show up mentally, show up focused, really put in an effort to learn, I think it makes a huge difference.
And to go off of that a little bit, I've noticed that in your professional career and non-professional career combined, you've had 5 fights fall through, and that's definitely a solid amount of fights. And what I would assume is a tremendous amount of time and preparation that was given leading up to these fights. So talk to us a little bit about your difficulties with cancellations and if it's frustrating to you at all.
I wish it was 5 fights. Before I had my first amateur fight, I had 9 fights fall through. The 10th one was my first amateur fight. Even in my second amateur fight, my opponent left the locker room. We weighed in 145 the day prior. We were in the locker rooms, he just left. And I fought some dude from 170 on a 30 minutes notice. He ended up not being a good fighter, but I didn't know. I just said yes to fight him. So I've had a ton of cancellations. A lot of times that the opponent said yes to a fight, and 1 week later, before the contract is sent, suddenly they can't get off work. They got insomnia. They hurt their ankle, all kinds of things. But it's the way of the sport to weed out the weak. I'm not the only one who has trouble finding fights. And a lot of people I know would break. A lot of people would say, you know what, I'm done with this. I'll go back to where I'm from. Um, but that's not me.
So is that 14 fights if my calculations are correct? That's the 5 uh, that I
Way more.
took and then another 9. So that it's 14 or more.
No, way more.
Wow, that is incredible.
Yeah, I had amateur fights. Yeah, like 10 amateur fights fall through. And then I had like, yeah, I guess at least another 10 pro fights fall through.
That's unbelievable, man. Wow. Well, to go off of that, the last time that we saw you fight before this card was in June of 2019, unfortunately. So walk us through your feelings about being sidelined for such an extended period of time.
You know, it's discouraging. It's it sucks, but I take it. You know, I'm take it as it is. Like I said, a lot of times it was, you know, just like we couldn't find me an opponent. A lot of times it was opponents that agreed and then decided they don't want to do it, which is surprising, you know, from coming from pro fighters. Amateur fighters, you know, I get it, but pro fighters, come on, guys. Um, yeah, couple times that I was hurt and I couldn't make a fight card. I would have fought the next month, but then no opponent. So, you know, it's a mix of a lot of things. It's definitely something I don't want to go through again. For me, you know, I had a blast this Friday. I really like, even though I got rocked and everything, I want to go back in there, like to that moment, you know, time travel and be in it again, fight through it again, because I just had a lot of fun. And if I could, I'd do it the next month, you know. I promised my coach I'm gonna rest physically for a week and not spar for at least 3-4 weeks to let my brain recover. So after that, I can start a full camp, and I guess 2 to 3 months makes more sense. But for me, I would have loved to fight next weekend.
So that was actually going to be leading into my last question, which is when are we going to be able to see you in the cage next? And you'd say around maybe 2 to 3 months, just good recovery time, get back in for a full training camp, and then you'll be good.
Yeah.
Sounds great, man. And do you have any opponents in mind?
Well, I called out Bruno Souza. He's an LFA fighter. He's Lyoto Machida's student. And since I grew up watching Lyoto, I think it'd be cool to fight a student and kind of go full circle, you know. And we'll see. We'll see if LFA wants to make that fight. If not, I'm down to fight anyway.